presentation outline includes the introduction, statistics of engineers in Tanzania, and initiatives to increase women engineers and women participation in construction, existing institutions, and major challenges. Okay, on the introduction, I have the general background of Tanzania. The country is situated in East Africa, and our land coverage is around 945,000 square kilometers. We have 21 political regions, and we border Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, Democratic Republic of Congo, Zambia, Malawi, and Mozambique. Our GDP is around 6.6%. Inflation is 3.7%, and our population to date is around 56 million. We have 20 tribes with 120 languages. On the governance part, we have the central government and the local government. My ministry, for example, is under the central government, of which we have different ministries, around 21 ministries. My ministry is called the Ministry of Works, Transport and Communication, which has different sectors, 3 sectors. We have the works sector, transport sector, and the communication sector. It's also the mother ministry for policy formulation and regulations for the construction sector in general. This is the organization structure for the ministry. As you can see, we have the 3 sectors, the communication sector, works sector, and the transport sector. Works sector is the one with this color, and these are different departments and the ministry. The sectors are just headed by the permanent secretary, and then at this part I can just explain the relationship between the works sector and the TANROADS. TANROADS is the Tanzania National Roads Agency, where Sylvia is coming from. Me and Gladness are coming from the Ministry of Works, Transport and Communication, and the works sector. And the Roads Agency, TANROADS, is where Sylvia is coming from. Also, under the same ministry, we have the regulatory bodies for the construction sector, which includes the Architects and Quantity Surveyors Registration Board, the Contractors Registration Board, and the Engineers Registration Board. Looking at the statistics of engineers in Tanzania, first I just talk about the education background. In Tanzania, we have about 14 institutions which are regulated by the Tanzania Commission for Universities. How do we nurture the engineering profession then? It's after completion. Normally we do study for 4 years at the university level, and after graduation, the graduate engineers have to be registered by the Engineers Registration Board as graduate engineers. During the 3 years after graduation, they have to practice under supervision of professional engineers, so that after those 3 years, they have to write a report and submit to the board. Then it will be assessed, and then they are registered as professional engineers. That being the case, formally it was, the process is as I explained, but it was not that productive. What they did, they had to introduce the structured apprenticeship program in 2003, at least to increase the number of graduates who could be registered as professionals, because practicing, writing the reports was just not simple. Some of them don't get employment on time. Some of them just are too reluctant, so they had to introduce this program, and it was launched by then the Minister for Works, who is now the President, His Excellency Dr. Magufuli. He launched it, so after 3 years, they have to register, but within every 3 months, they have to submit a report to the board. At least it's easy to follow up. Every 3 months, they have to submit a report to the board and see how they are progressing. If they have any challenges, they have to be it's easily monitored than the former procedures. So after just producing the reports for 3 consecutive months, for 3 years they are just registered as professional engineers. We just here we can see the trend of registration after having this program in place. At least the trend increases. We could manage to get the data from 2015. You can see the trend for engineers, graduates. This is the graduation data and registration. Sorry for figures, they are not clearly seen, but this shows the total engineers, overall engineers as of August 2019. It's almost around 26,000. This is overall 26,331 for different disciplines. And for female only, around a total of female engineers is around 2,837. This is almost 10% of the total engineers in the country. Going to the labor force, unfortunately we could not get data. We don't have that catch of keeping records of our graduates and employment records. So unfortunately, actually referring to the data I've shown previously, 10% of women engineers, of total engineers. So generally I can say the comparison between men and women are still low in the field. And taking an example, we just cited an example for the sector we are working with. For the ministry, we almost have 12 engineers out of 55 total engineers. And for TANROADS, the agency that is just implementing and managing all the national roads countrywide, there are a total number of 283 engineers and only 34 are female. So it's around 12%. What are we doing then to increase the number? We have different policies, acts, and strategies and programs to increase the number of women engineers in the country. We have different policies. This is the construction policy. At least it have a section that states that we need to have initiatives and programs to increase the number of women in the construction sector. We have the National Transport Policy as well, Women and Gender Policy, the Employment and Labor Relations Act. Those some of the policies, for example, the Women and Gender Policy, Employment and Labor Relations Act, and these two are mostly on gender mainstreaming, not specifically for engineers. But on the Public Procurement Act, we have a clause that encourages and directs the agencies and the other government institutions to at least have 30% of annual procurement works for special groups, of which women are one of them. So we'll see below of how are we just benefiting from this. Other strategies and programs, for example, in universities, to encourage more women to join the engineering field and science, 100% of the scholarship loan for women is just provided. For example, in our country, we have the program that for those who are joining the university level, they have to apply for a loan from the government. So they are assessed. When they are assessed, they just see, okay, if you studied for the former school levels, maybe paying by yourself, then they are just assessing, we can give you 50% or 0% of the scholarship. But for women who just apply to join the science and engineering, they are given 100% scholarship. Though they have to pay back after getting jobs, employment, they have to be paying on yearly basis, on monthly basis. We have other strategies. These are also on general gender mainstreaming. Okay, at ministry level, then we have at our ministry, the work sector, we have the Women Participation Unit. This is just responsible to coordinate women and encourage them to be involved in roadworks. They are just encouraged, some of them are just encouraged to have engineering and construction companies. We just organize workshops, seminars, and trainings. After they are being trained, they just registered with the construction contractors registration board. Then they're just encouraged to apply to tender, to bid for the works, construction works. Also, we have the programs to just conducting outreach missions to girls in schools to encourage them to study science and know their challenges and how to overcome them. Also, we just encourage women, female engineers in universities to just beat up those challenges they meet in their universities and excel and just move on to engineering. Also, under the Ministry of Works, we have the institutions. They are more or less like KICTE, but for these are the institutions that, of course, they are more based into labor-based technology, where those women, we are just organizing workshops and trainings. These are the institutions that just facilitate those trainings. Though now the ministry is in the process of just combining the two institutions, the labor-based technology institutions, into one. It is going to be called the Institutions of Construction Technology, where it will be more like KICTE, where professionals will be just trained, build the capacity, whether it's women or male, and then to build more capacity for excelling in construction works. Also, TANROADS as the main employer for women contractors, they are more encouraged, and we have a guideline in place where we just highlighted areas and places where they can incorporate more women in the construction works. These are photos showing the activities that the unit have been conducting. These are photos showing how we talk to girls in schools. And these are women on training. Then after training, they have to go on site and do it, practicals of what they have been trained before going to the registration and just go and bidding. This is what I talked about previously, the guidelines for enhancing women participation in roadworks. It's now in place. We also have a database showing the activities that we have been doing. Also, those women that have been trained and registered as contractors, they have to just enter into this database. They can see the current tenders that have been announced, training that are just to be conducted, the program to be conducted, and the other issues regarding their involvement in the roadworks. This is the page for the Women Participation Unit database. They have to access by entering the username and password, and this is the home page. As you can see, for example, if we have any announcement that is current, it just pop up here. We have these are regions. As I said, we have 21 regions. So in each region, we have a coordinator who are based in TANROADS office. For example, Sylvia is one of them. She's the coordinator in one of the regions. So they have to, the women in each region have to issue announcements regarding their region at this place. And under the Engineers Registration Board, those are the ones that manages the program that is named as the apprenticeship program. This program is just sponsored by the government. As I said, it was launched by the minister. By then the minister, and now he's the president of the United Republic of Tanzania. And the World Bank also is sponsoring the program, and the Royal Norwegian Embassy. This is specifically for women. I can talk more, maybe explain more on this. This program, because after graduation, sometimes not every graduate gets employment on time, but they can be attached on the company. So if they are attached on a certain company for practicing, they have to get at least a stipend to just for like a subsistence allowance. So the government had to set aside a budget to just facilitate these activities. At least instead of the graduates going home and sit because no employment or what, at least they can get something that can facilitate their practicing. Also, we just, for capacity building scholarship from the World Bank, they just sponsor this program. The Royal Norwegian Embassy did was just approached to at least support more women, because for them it was really hard. Because you might find that, how can I say, it's like for the government that is just paid for them is around $100. For a month it's not enough. So for women to increase more, they had to be more encouraged. So apart from this, they also get some amount from the Norwegian Embassy. So this at least updated it increased the number of women more than men. Because for women, if she doesn't get any support, it's easy for her, she'll go to sell cosmetics or something else, at least to, to support herself financially. So the outcome of this, the SIP program, at least increased the number. You can see from, for example, 2009, number of male engineers was 4,081, and for female was 282. But in 2018, female professional engineers around, those are men, 5,000, and for female from 282, they are now 506. Okay, we have the existing institutions which support also the programs to increase women in engineering. This is the general for male and female. It's all for all over Tanzania. But under this institution, we have also the women chapter and the Institution of Engineers, of which they specifically have an objective to promote the advancement of engineering, specifically for women, though it can be for both. We do visit the secondary schools. We do organize the annual general meeting for women and exhibitions where we invite girls from different schools. They have exhibitions on science issues, and they are just competing and get rewards for those who does the better. So at least for this, it just encourages girls, those who are still in school, they get a sense of ownership that they can be engineers as well. So this helps a lot. Okay, this is the Institution for Engineers Tanzania is just for all engineers, but unfortunately not all engineers are just joining the institution. As you can see, if we remember the data I showed before, it is around 26,000 engineers, but only 4,200 have joined though this is not very current, but they are not as many as they should be. So I think we need to do more about this. Yeah. Now I can talk a bit of challenges we have in increasing the number of women. One of them is nationwide, it's still not really owned, and no much effort have been put on because we do not have a specific policy for women in engineering. So this also is a barrier to increase the number. We have also inadequate funds to support the programs, so not all women have already been reached, and the whole community regarding the engineering and the construction sector as a whole. We also data management. For example, I'm not very sure if a real number of women engineers are known to date. So maybe something has to be done here. Also a negative perception to girls and the community on science and the construction industry profession. They think this is the profession for men because they do tell us when we go to schools, ask them, why do you think you can't take engineering? Actually, when we go to schools, it's only engineers who are ladies who go to those schools. At least they can see that it doesn't matter that you are a woman, you can still do engineering. So we go, those who are women, we are only there to go to schools to talk to those girls. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.